Now, last time I was here, I brought you Halloween Havoc 95, and I apologize that you had to witness that show. I apologize to myself as well, but I'm hoping that this week's show, on the whole, will make up for that in a lot of ways. I'm talking about Slim Jim's Halloween Havoc 1997 from the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, Nevada, October 26, 97. This show was nominated by Glenn Thompson, John Araya Garcia, Didymus, and Stevie Ray over on patreon.com/wrestlingwithregret. You got a sellout of 12,457 in the MGM Grand Garden Arena. 405,000 pay-per-view buys translates to a 1.1 buy rate. Tony Schiavone, Dusty Rhodes, and Bobby Heenan on commentary. I miss custom sets, man. Now, I've never actually seen this whole show all the way through before, so when I was watching it for this review, the first thing that caught my eye, or my ear I should say, was Marvelous Mark Marrow's theme, his royalty-free song that they can't put on any compilation discs, playing here as the theme for the pay-per-view. Was that the actual original theme for this show, or is it just a network redub, I wonder? Your opening matchup sees Yuji Nagata, accompanied by his umpire's vest and manager Sonny Ono, taking on Ultimo Dragon. Sonny is Dragon's former manager. They had a bad falling out several months ago, and it's been Ono's mission to take him down ever since. Nagata debuted a few weeks ago as Ono's hired gun. Mike Tenay joins commentary to make the announce team even larger. Nagata withstands the early assault and dumps Dragon with a back suplex, looking very aggressive, working over Ultimo with some holds, gesturing to the crowd in between. Dragon kicks out of a pile driver among other things. The Dragon fires up and takes over with a big dragon screw, but he's shot out of the sky by Nagata's kick. Here comes Raven and his flock. They are growing in numbers. They actually just added Billy Kidman a couple weeks ago, just hanging around in the crowd. We'll be seeing these guys a few times over the course of the evening. Big Asai moonsault by the Ultimo Dragon. Nagata goes for a superplex, but it's blocked. Dragon with a sunset flip powerbomb. There's a splash and a kick out. Fighting on their way to the corner, there's a big Frankensteiner by Dragon. Goes for the sleeper again, but Nagata grabs the arm, drops into the arm bar, and Dragon taps immediately. The baddies stay on the attack after the bell. Yuji and Sonny attack the arm one more time for good measure, and then Sonny Ono pays off Yuji. I give this one 3.5 stars out of 5. It's a great opener. My one problem with it, it's not long enough. This is definitely the kind of match you would see these two have in Japan, but this is one's kind of pared down for, pay-per-view, for a Western television audience, so I get why they had to kind of truncate what they're capable of doing, but I would love to see more of these guys work where they have freedom to actually do more, but this is a really solid opener. We go to the WCW.com chat room with Disco Inferno, where you can see the cameraman gesturing them, giving them the cue to go. Disco talks about wrestling Jacqueline later on, makes some very chauvinistic comments when Jacqueline shows up and chases him out. Our next match is a last-minute addition to this card. Apparently Goldberg versus Meng was supposed to happen here on the show, but for whatever reason that did not happen, as young plucky babyface Chris Jericho takes on Gedo, who is visiting from Japan. These two go way back to their days in Japan as partners in Team No Respect, later as rivals. Lots more information about that in Jericho's first autobiography. The two exchange some holds and kicks. Jericho sends Gedo powdering. Gedo soon takes over by launching Jericho to the outside, hitting a big power slam. Jericho starts to come back, but we get a very scary moment here where they try a top rope Hurricane Rana, but Jericho kind of slips on the way up, almost breaks his neck on the way down. Somehow he only gets a busted nose after landing on his head. Jericho has said he has not gone back to watch this match ever because of that moment, but he is able to go on here. Gedo with a very unique attack on the leg, goes for a top rope leg drop, but Jericho blocks it, puts on the Lion Tamer to win. I also give this one 3.5 stars out of 5. Very similar energy to the opening match, but a little bit shorter, and also that Frankensteiner botch was horrific to look at, but besides that, I think everything else in this match is on point. And again, it's amazing Jericho has been able to have a lengthy 30-year career. We just recently celebrated his anniversary after that horrific move. Gene Okerlund's backstage with Deborah McMichael, so who will be her mystery man to face her estranged husband Mongo? Will it be Jeff Jarrett, Michael Cook, Steven Seagal? In comes Mongo, just yells at her some more, which is kind of been the entire story of this feud. He tells her to give him back that diamond ring and those credit cards. Deborah responds with the kind of acting skills we'd also come to appreciate in 2001.
And second of all, I have no intentions of giving up my ring nor my credit cards because I have earned it all these years.
Well, up next, folks, is quite simply a classic matchup. But I can say, without hyperbole, this is probably one of the best matches WCW ever put on period. It's Cruiserweight Championship versus Mask as Eddie Guerrero defends his title against Rey Mysterio Jr. Eddie won the Cruiserweight title from Chris Jericho last month at Fall Brawl and has since set his sights on Rey Mysterio. On Nitro, he tried to wrestle Rey as the masked El Caliente, but Rey beat him and unmasked him. A couple weeks later, Rey had a TV title match against Disco Inferno, but Eddie with a very slick mask theft costing him the match. We've also been seeing on Nitro for the last several weeks sort of a primer series, a mini documentary series hosted by Mike Tenay about the history of Lucha Libre and Mexican wrestlers, talking about the history of Arena Mexico, about the importance of masks, getting interviews from other masked wrestlers about the topic. So consider this match the final chapter of this recurring segment. And of course, I can't go on without talking about Rey's iconic Phantom-inspired look here. Just one of the many awesome appearances Rey's had over the years. Truly a classic look here. Rey with guns blazing from the very beginning, flying all over the place, but Eddie yoinks him off the apron and drives him into the steps. Eddie works over Rey, hits a big brain buster and a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker and a 2 count. Eddie begins to tug at Rey's mask. Rey is pinned down by Eddie, but he works his way up to a spectacular springboard backflip DDT while they're still holding onto each other's hands. Rey goes for a dive, but Eddie is too fast for him and drops him to the outside. Eddie with the camel clutch. He rips Rey's mask wide open so we can see part of his face. He gets the gory stretch on him, but Rey arm drags out of it, gets cut off again. Eddie gets Rey in the Tree of Woe, goes for a baseball slide, but Rey sits up and Eddie crotches himself on the post. A frog splash attempt is thwarted. They fight in the opposite corner. Eddie goes for a crucifix bomb, but Rey counters in mid, becomes the new champion. Well, I might have tipped my hand a bit when I prefaced this match by saying it's an all-time classic, but 5 stars out of 5 for me. If you've not seen this match before, go out of your way and watch it. If you've already seen this match, go and watch it again because it's that good. This match, I think, lives up to all the hype that has surrounded it in the years since. Some really special looking stuff in the ring, some innovative offense, and just great storytelling. Great work from 2 guys with an amazing chemistry, and there's putting on a clinic here. You can watch this match again and again and learn something new from it every single time. It is one of the best matches you will ever see in WCW's rich history. And they have a lot of great matches, but this one stands up there as one of the best. And some I never realized until doing research for this video, this match was supposed to have a very different ending. Apparently the original plan was for Rey to lose the match and unmask, which happened about a year and a half before they actually did it at Super Brawl 9 in February of '99. I feel like we would have had a very different opinion about this match had everything been the same, but we just had the different outcome of Rey losing. It might still be regarded as technically a great classic match, but the finish might have been a bit of a downer, I would say. It apparently took a lot of wrangling and negotiating for Rey to get his way to keep the mask on. I don't know if him eventually unmasking down the line was kind of like a trade-off for that, but nevertheless, I'm glad that Rey was able to stand his ground and keep the mask on for this match because it made the whole match itself a much better viewing experience. Mean Gene's on stage to plug the hotline. Then we get a pre-recorded backstage promo from Hollywood Hogan and Eric Bischoff with an awkward amount of pad to begin the video. Hogan says he will not wrestle tonight against Piper unless WCW provides a contract which states that Sting will not be allowed in the building. More on that later. Well, over the last several weeks, Steve Mongo McMichael and his wife Deborah have been having a very estranged relationship. And over the last several weeks, Deborah's begun to accompany Jeff Jarrett to the ring in a bit of a preview of what we see them do in the World Wrestling Federation about a year later. It sure seemed, based on weekly programming, we were headed toward a Mongo-Jarrett matchup at the pay-per-view, where if Mongo won, then Deborah would have to give back, the credit cards and the jewelry and all that stuff. But in the middle of this build, Jarrett leaves WCW. His contract runs out and he goes back to the World Wrestling Federation and promptly torpedoes his own career when he takes a shot at Austin 316. So from what I can tell, this is WCW trying to salvage the angle in the wake of Jarrett being gone. Deborah hints for weeks there's going to be some mystery man that she's going to be accompanying to the ring, and we find out it's the former TV champion Alex Wright. Wright begins by out-wrestling Mongo. We get a weird shoulder tackle evasion before Alex takes Mongo down again. Mongo picks Alex up for a tombstone of his own. Deborah on the apron, and both Mongo and the referee turn their blinders on as the recently debuted Bill Goldberg makes his way to the ring and destroys Mongo. He helps Alex win the match, and in exchange, Deborah gives him Mongo's Super Bowl ring. Oh, that's how he got it. I give it 0 stars out of 5. There wasn't really much to the match to begin with, and then in the end it got all mongoed up anyway. Goldberg's interference I thought was interesting. It's his first real storyline since debuting the month before beginning the unbeaten streak. You forget that he was kind of a heel for a bit early on in his run before his character really developed. But everyone looked bad here when the ref had to work extra hard not to see what was going on right behind him. We get a Randy Savage promo backstage. Macho Man says DDP is a marked man, and even Elizabeth agrees that Paige on his best day can't beat Macho. Up next, a match that is months in the making, and not because there was any particular killer build with this thing, but mostly because Eric Bischoff really wanted to get his way, as Disco Inferno takes on Jacqueline in an intergender matchup. Earlier in the year, Disco was approached by management who wanted him to lose a match to Jacqueline for a variety of reasons that you can hear all about him discussing in his various shoot interviews over the years. Disco did not want to do it, he rejected the idea, so he was fired as a result. Months later, he's actually signed back to the company. He even wins the TV championship from Alex Wright, but they still want him to lose to Jacqueline no matter what, so here we are, at least it's non-title. Disco is very hesitant here, does not want to throw down. He keeps powdering out of the ring over and over again. Many minutes of stalling and gaga take up the first portion of this matchup here. Jackie does hit a sunset flip out of nowhere. Disco hits an arm drag almost out of instinct, but still does not want to engage. Jackie is finally able to get some hits in. Her shoulder tackles are mostly ineffective. She counters the hip toss though. Disco throws Jackie out, but she grabs his legs and yoinks him to the ring post. She suplexes him on the floor, hits a float over DDT in the ring. Jackie goes for a top rope dive, but Disco counters into a pin. There's a kick out. Disco argues with the ref over it, and Jackie rolls him up to beat him. I give it 1 star out of 5. This match, I think it was, first of all, it was way too long with all the stalling they did at the top of this thing, all the pacing and time killing, running around the ring and whatnot. The action itself, once it began, wasn't great, but at least the crowd was into it. As far as Disco's reservations about losing to Jacqueline, how he feared it would hurt his career, personally, I don't think it hurt his career that much. For example, I had no idea that Disco wrestled Jacqueline at Halloween Havoc until I started working on this show. And him losing in the match doesn't hurt him in my eyes, especially with the power of hindsight, knowing he'd go on to have a very lengthy career in WCW afterward, and he'd find work for many years after this match happened, and I don't think it hurt his career at all. I maintain there's only one person who really suffered after losing to a woman, and that was Mark Mero, only because it happened 100 times or so in the span of like 4 or 5 months. A very personal match for the US Championship up next as Curt Hennig defends against Ric Flair. Last month at Fall Brawl, Hennig took Arn Anderson's spot in the War Games match against the NWO, but in the end, Hennig turned on the Horsemen, joined the New World Order, and slammed the cage door into Ric Flair's head as a result. Flair was hospitalized and out for weeks, even led to the dismantling of the 4 Horsemen for the time being. Hennig took Flair's robe as a trophy. He bestowed it to Hollywood Hogan in a promo. He would beat Mongo McMichael that same night for the US Championship. Flair would come back weeks later. A great line here in Flair's return promo where he tells Hennig, "You're not NWO for life, you're NWO for about 3 weeks until Halloween Havoc." Hennig makes his way out wearing Flair's robe again despite gifting it to Hogan earlier. Also not coming out with the US Championship. He's actually carrying the Cruiserweight title they are trying very poorly to conceal. I have no idea why the belt was switched like this. Flair comes out swinging against Hennig. He finally gets to put the robe on himself and the crowd loves it. Hennig and Flair go back and forth until Curt goes for Rick's leg, keeps working him over inside and outside of the ring. Hennig tries to escape with not the US Championship, but Flair chases him to the ramp. Back in the ring, Flair gets Curt in the Tree of Woe, wraps the title belt around Hennig's face, leather side first, stomps the belt and gets himself disqualified. Look at that sell by Curt, selling the soft leather side of the belt to the face. Out comes some more refs and some NWO lackeys to split up Flair and Hennig, and that's the end of that chapter. I give it 2 stars out of 5. It's neither man's best work, but you can tell from how they're working and like their physicality. It is a big fight. It's a big brawl. That's what they're getting over here. The DQ finish was a bit disappointing, but it's supposed to set up for a match at Starrcade that ends up never happening. But I do love how Flair gets DQ'd for kicking the leather side of the belt into Hennig's face because they can't show the fact that it's not the US Championship. Again, why? We go back to the web zone with the Macho Man, then Mean Gene's on stage with the returning J.J. Dillon, who's back after being beaten up months ago by the NWO. What are his thoughts on Hogan and Bischoff's last-minute power play? Dillon announces the main event will take place as scheduled until Eric Bischoff appears. He says Dillon doesn't have the power to make the match. Then J.J. produces a notarized contract that says the match is happening no matter what. Eazy-E is very upset. Up next, the NWO's Scott Hall takes on Lex Luger, and Larry Zbyszko's the special guest referee. The former AWA World Champion turned color commentator has been one of those standing tall against the NWO and has been getting under their skin for weeks. At Fall Brawl, Zbyszko cost Hall and Savage in a match against Luger and DDP. Larry was named the guest referee in this singles match with Luger and Hall, promises to call it down the middle, gets a bit of practice on an episode of Nitro when he costs Hall and Six their tag titles against the Steiner brothers. Hall flicks his toothpick in Zbyszko's face face, which allows Lex to get the first shot as the match begins. Zbyszko is being a fair official here, exercising his authority on both Hall and Luger. You can see him getting frustrated when he misses something sneaky that Hall did. Slow going by both men, but it's not terrible. Hall is the first one to go for a pin, doesn't like Larry's counts. Hall with a sleeper applied, but Lex eventually powers out. Hall taking liberties with Luger, and Zbyszko finally gets involved. Shoving turns into a rush by Hall, but Larry dodges it. Hall flies out of the ring. Eric Bischoff appears, and Larry kicks him off the apron. Luger begins to make his comeback. Bischoff distracts Zbyszko, which allows Six to kick Luger in the head. Outsider's edge by Hall. Zbyszko with a reluctant 3 count. Hall wins the match. Or does he? Larry demands to see the replay. He sees the kick and restarts the match. Hall's in the ring, gets very upset at Zbyszko. He shoves Larry, who shoves back, and Hall walks right into the torture rack. Zbyszko calls the bell as he gets decked from behind by Six. Then Bischoff, Six, and Hall all join in on beating up Larry. Bischoff with the kick and the symbolic 3 count on Zbyszko. So even in defeat, the NWO stand tall here. I give it 2 stars out of 5. The match itself, pretty meh. The most interesting thing about the match to me was just how well Zbyszko played the neutral referee. He was very judicious against both guys for like 95% of the match, and only attacking Hall when Hall was the one who initiated it. This stuff, especially with the post-match beatdown, helps build more toward the inevitable Bischoff-Zbyszko match at Starrcade for control of Nitro, which I've covered here before. It's the blow-off to what's been an incredible feud in 1997, one of the better feuds of the year across any company in America, a Las Vegas sudden death match as Randy Savage takes on Diamond Dallas Page. These guys have been fighting for months and months in a variety of match types and big significant moments. Elizabeth and Kimberly have been getting involved as well. Kim's been taking her licks. They've had the spray paint. A couple weeks earlier on Nitro, DDP hit the diamond cutter on Savage on the concrete, led to a stretcher job and Randy wearing a neck brace for a couple of weeks, all culminating in this match here, basically last man standing rules. Can we talk for a minute though about Randy Savage's look here? I mean, my God, the long black tights with the neon green lightning, the gloves, the jacket showing love to Slim Jim, the Slim Jim weight belt with the fringe. It's beautiful. And you know what? The same thing goes for DDP's vest tonight. It's a brawl from the word go. DDP throwing bombs in the corner. We get a double clothesline. Page goes the diamond cutter, but Savage powders. DDP hits a big dive. They fight their way through the crowd. Savage with another bomb jumping off the barricade. DDP whips Savage into the tombstones. So much exploding styrofoam and plastic here. One of Dusty's greatest ever calls on commentary is made in this moment.
Brother, he wobble-legged him. Did he wobble-leg him? Huh? I like this.
Back at ringside, Savage regains control. He grabs a ringside camera and goes to strike, but DDP kicks it in Savage's face. Out comes Elizabeth, who shatters a tray over the ref's head. She begins to choke DDP with a cord when Kimberly shows up and Dusty shouts catfight over and over. Kim grabs Liz by the hair and drags her to the back, and Nick Kenny Powers Patrick is taken over as referee. Savage blocks a cutter attempt, hits the flying elbow. Savage gets up first, and the referee just restarts the count for no reason. Thanks, Nick Patrick. Savage with another elbow drop. DDP barely gets back up in time. Patrick's knocked out just in time for Page to hit the diamond cutter. Nothing's better for your spine. Savage grabs the referee's attention while Sting, played by Hulk Hogan, walks to the ring and decks Page with the bat. DDP cannot answer the count and Savage wins. 4.5 stars out of 5 for me. Another fantastic match on the night. These two look like they went through a war here. I love how they explored the space all over the arena. Seeing the ladies get involved the way they did, I thought was a great little break in the action, but it kept the story going. I love this match. I can't say enough good things about it. My one little nitpick is, why does the referee have to be distracted when Hulk Hogan comes up dressed as Sting? It's no rules. He could have done it without the referee not seeing it. Randy with some extracurriculars afterward. I do love Nick Patrick's sell here. He does that bump again at Starrcade too. Well, here we go, folks. Main event time. It's being billed as the single biggest cage match in all of wrestling history. By the way, this took place about 3 weeks after the first Hell in a Cell match, so no pressure. As Hollywood Hogan takes on Roddy Piper. 1 year ago, Roddy Piper debuted for WCW at the end of Halloween Havoc and went right for Hogan. They wrestled at Starrcade. They wrestled at Super Brawl. 1 win apiece. Find out more about that in my Piper in WCW video. Piper became the interim authority figure in J.J. Dillon's absence. He had an open contract for any match he wanted down the line and challenged Hogan to a cage match. It's not for the title, but Piper did steal the belt a couple of Nitros ago. And what a weird cage they used for this match. It's like a repurposed Chamber of Horrors match, though with no domed roof and no chair of torture or fatal switch, no coffins to temple guards inside. It still looks rickety and wobbly as all hell, though. Piper chases Hogan around for a bit, then bites him on the ass a couple times. Lots of punching and flopping around is the story of this match. Hogan tries to leave out the door, and then they both go out of the cage, and the match just continues. pay-per-views. I think that as the match goes on, the object is to not just escape the cage to the door, but you have to climb over the cage wall to the outside in order to actually win. I wish they just explained that to us. Hogan tries to flee, but then a fake sting appears. They go back into the cage, they lock it again. Why? What's the point? More punches, more fake stings. They go to the top and back down. The fans don't seem to care. Hogan whips Piper with the weight belt. Hogan climbs the wobbly-ass cage again and goes over the top, but is cut off by another sting. Both are up top again, and now the fans wake up. Yet another sting. Then another one. Then another one. Then another one. Piper's choking Hogan. Hogan decks him with the title belt. 2 leg drops. In comes the referee. Piper somehow kicks out. That is some politicking bullshit right there. In comes Savage. The stings do nothing to stop him. I will never not cringe when I see this moment of Savage flying off the top of the cage into the ring and getting absolutely nothing. Hogan's supposed to catch him a little and totally nopes him. Fuck off, Hogan. Piper locks in the sleeper, wins the match. Savage gets in right afterward, though. How he's able to walk, I have no idea. In comes Bischoff. And another fake sting, he's a goner. NWO beat up Piper and cuff him to the cage. A fan climbs into the cage and the fake sting takes him down. It's a really weird, I don't know if this is a shoot or a work. Like, we find out later this fan was not a planned part of the show, but the way the camera's on him the entire time certainly suggests like he is part of the show. But the way the fake sting takes him down, and then you see the way Hogan and Savage interact with him, where it's like Hogan's throwing work punches and Savage wants to clearly tear this kid limb from limb. As far as I can tell, the fan's not part of the show. There's security. Piper is still handcuffed to the side of the cage. It's a giant clusterfuck. What a terrible mess to end this show. I give it -4 stars out of 5. This match is a whole lot of suck. It's not just the quality of the cage, it's not just the quality of the in-ring action, it's not just the inconsistent rules, it's not just all the stings, which by the way, we did not see the real sting once at all in this segment here. It's not just Savage's fall from the top of the cage, it's not just the train wreck after the bell rings. Actually, you know what? It is all those things. Just a truly awful match that completely fails to live up to the massive, lofty height that they gave this match as the single greatest match you will ever see. How can it be a fair and just world when you have this 5-star classic in Rey Mysterio Jr. and Eddie Guerrero on the same show as this hunk of shit? I mean, it is pretty wild that Piper won 2 of those matches with Hogan in the feud, because who has done that before? But like, none of it mattered because the focus was on the Sting mind games that technically worked because Hogan was thrown off his game in the match but got back immediately afterward. It's still NWO all the way, all the time. I mean, I love the NWO theme, but when you go back and watch the Nitros around this time and this show, you kind of get tired of hearing it. And this moment at the end kind of reflected that. My grade for Halloween Havoc 1997, Slim Jim's Halloween Havoc 1997 is a B. I think when I was watching this show, all I could think of was, I really wish I had watched this show before watching and reviewing Starrcade 97, because it really would have helped fill in a lot of blanks for me. I had a vague idea of the build of that show, but Halloween Havoc build really helped me fill in the blanks. As for the show itself, Halloween Havoc boasts a mostly stellar undercard, mid-card situation, with a couple of glaring exceptions, but I mean, come on, Rey and Eddie, you can't go wrong with that match. But it is those exceptions and that main event that really drags the grade down for this show. But if you cut the show off and stop watching after DDP and Savage, then it's an overall great show. If you want to play a role in determining which shows I look at, be they good, bad, or somewhere in between, go to patreon.com/wrestlingwithregret, become a $10 backer or above, and you'll have the chance to nominate classic shows for me to review. Next time, it will be the month of November, so we're going to move away from Halloween Havoc shows and go into classic Survivor Series, beginning with a big year, 2002. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.